Have you ever wondered what was out there in the night sky? Stared up at the stars in the hopes of seeing something out of the ordinary? Have you ever heard unexplainable noises coming from a vacant room, or watched a shadow cross the wall in front of you? Have you asked yourself if there's life after this one, or if you had life before? What about strange creatures that are mythical and elusive? Have you experienced deja vu, or felt a prompting to leave because you felt you were in danger? What if tomorrow you were on the fringe? Welcome to another episode of On the Fringe. I'm Philip.
I'm Mark.
And as you can see, we have our part-time co-host with us, Pam and Jess. Welcome back, girls.
Hi.
Hi.
It's always fun to have them. Yeah, part-time permanent. I think it's getting closer to permanent. I really do.
Yeah.
As always, it's always a lot of fun when you guys join us. Really a lot more informative than what Mark and I put out there. So, Chris and Facebook user, they say, "Hey, y'all."
Hi.
Hey, Chris.
Alicia, she said, "Hey."
Oh, hi, Alicia.
So yeah.
Hi, Alicia.
But yeah, I mean, glad to see you guys. You know, I mean, I think saw you guys Halloween, probably the last time I ran into you. You know, we ran over there. Jess, you guys did an awesome job like usual over there. I love the way it was laid out, the way that your everything was just set up. It was great. You know,
thank you, sir.
It seemed to flow so much better than the previous years.
It did.
It really
we
did.
rerouted some stuff, and I think it ran a whole lot more smoothly. And it really helped the fact that Mike's cousin came to help us with the funnel cake. She actually worked in a funnel cake when she was funnel cake truck when she was younger.
Nice.
So she was just like, wow, 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 wow. And we were just like, wow. So yeah, we're getting ready to take that lady out for a steak dinner to make sure she comes back next year.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, bribery never hurts.
That's
Bribery
right.
is very effective, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, but yeah, did you guys? I know you'd mentioned, you know, when you dropped in when we were talking about Halloween and all that. When you dropped in, you were mentioning how people dropped the candy and stuff. Was that at least reduced of the number of candy, or as much candy as you had to not pick up?
Yes. So I'd say we picked up maybe 2 handfuls of candy, and that was pretty much in the pathway. So it was obviously accidentally dropped, you know, kids moving their pumpkin pails around and stuff. We didn't have any in the extra areas. And the great thing is that when we called the Blue Star mothers to come pick up their candy, we handed off 50 pounds.
Sweet.
Holy
That is
cow.
awesome.
I know we put some in the buckets.
Yeah.
I did pick some up off the ground. It was like one of those little bags or whatever. I think somebody obviously dropped.
Yeah.
It was chocolate. I mean, it was good candy, so it had to be an accident. So,
Yeah.
I think I gave it to your daughter, but
I was super proud of our candy kids. I was having to stop every 30 minutes and go around to all the little pumpkin pails we had set out for the Blue Star mothers and empty them because they were getting full so fast. And every time I came through, part of those kids would ask me if I was the lady collecting for the Blue Star mothers, and I'd say yes. And they would literally just reach into their little pumpkin pails and bags and grab a handful of candy, not looking at it first, and just tossing it in the box.
that's awesome.
They
That
are
is
far better
nice.
than me. Yeah. If it had been me
Yeah.
when I was little, I would have been like, well, I won't eat the Tootsie Rolls. And they didn't even look. There was full-size candy bars in there, and I was just like, wow. So
The
Awesome.
generosity is awesome.
yeah.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, those parents should be proud. Absolutely. I mean,
Mhm. I also
That
learned
gives
something
me hope.
else for anybody else who listens to this and is considering. All the Blue Star Mother chapters across the U.S. do this. They collect Halloween candy and send it to our troops. They can't always get the chocolate overseas because of the heat and shipping and stuff.
yeah.
That chocolate goes to bases, and it also goes to VA hospitals.
Oh, that's cool.
Awesome.
Awesome.
That is
Yeah. So give. It goes for all sorts of fantastic good things. So
That's good.
and we'll collect next year and definitely put out way more collection spots.
Yeah, I noticed they were
Some
getting
bigger
full pretty
pumpkins.
quick when we were in line.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
So if
An orange
anybody is
bucket.
local, if anybody's local, hit us up. And if you want to donate some Halloween buckets,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Yeah.
if you
The
want to donate some
libraries
Halloween
drop off
buckets,
in Katy too, so you can drop it there.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
can pick it up.
Mm-hmm.
hit us up and we'll make sure they get to the right place because it's a great cause.
Yeah.
It sounds like you guys did awesome.
Yeah. And if you're not local, get up online and look up your local chapter of Blue Star Mothers, and they'll be able to tell you where to drop your candy off at.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
Definitely.
Mhm.
Tim, you said that we do live in an awesome community.
Very much.
Yes, we
so.
do.
That's great. Anyway, like I said, I'm glad to have you guys here. Before we get rolling our normal, check us out, whatiftomorrowmedia.com. We've got all our affiliates over there, My Patriot Supply, Conflicted the Game with the coupon code WHATIF. We've got EMP Shield and we have Duke Cannon. So that's a good way to support the show. And I don't know if I have it on this setting or not. Hey, we do. And we also have Buy Me a Coffee. It's something new we're trying out. If you guys enjoy the show, want to help us out, not necessarily go into the other affiliates or whatever, just something real simple. You guys can go to buymeacoffee.com/whatiftomorrow and buy us a coffee. That'll help pay for the show. All this is out of our pockets we bring to you guys, so we'd appreciate any help that you could give us. Moving on, the ladies here tonight, and it's actually, I believe Mark said you said it was Jess's idea, wasn't it, to talk crop circles tonight? So we're gonna talk them in. And frankly, I don't know a lot about crop circles. I know what they are. I know a lot of people are faking them, but there's some that aren't. And I guess what I did see on it, they were talking about how like the Nazca lines and crop circles could be related. I don't know if you guys got into that or not.
I hadn't heard that. That's interesting.
Mm-mm.
But yeah, there was talks on that because, the big petroglyphs and all that. But there's a way down in Peru, with the rock that sits on top of the sand. They just basically move the rock out of the way and form these giant pictures, the petroglyphs in the sand. But they were kind of trying to relate it to say, I didn't get real far into it because I didn't even really get much of a lunch hour because I was on the phone and all that junk. But that's where it was going with that conversation, with that line of thinking. I didn't know if you guys maybe have heard anything about that or not.
I didn't know about that.
But it makes kind of a little bit of sense, except I think the Nazca lines were trying to get somebody's attention. And I think the crop circles, if they're real, are somebody else trying to get our attention.
Yeah, I was going to say the only problem I would have with that is that many of the Nazca lines are obviously man-made from a long ago culture. And many of the crop circles are obviously not man-made, or if they are man-made, we still don't know how they're doing it. Don't get me wrong, many crop circles are man-made. There's a lot of artists that will show you how they've done it. But they don't hold a spark to a real true crop circle. You can always tell, even the nicest, like machine-made ones that artists have used don't hold a candle to a true crop circle.
Plus the feelings, people will talk about when they walk into the circle, if it's a true one, they get either like a feeling of euphoria or giddiness or even sick. Some of them get sick if they walk in.
And I've seen them use dowsing rods.
Yeah.
And they get reactions on the ones that probably are real.
Colin Andrews, he wrote a book called Signs of Contact. I think it was published in like 2003. So it's an older one. But he talked about, he was with his parents and they were wondering what would happen if you took a dog into it because it affected other people. So his parents took their dog in, and the dog immediately got violently ill, and they
Wow.
had to take the dog out, put him in the car, and drove him home 20 miles. By the time they got him home, he was fine, but it was whatever, was
Hmm.
with the circle just really made him ill.
So I know there's reports, possibly of like ball lightning,
Mhm.
or something along that lines. Could it be like EMF causing all this? Because I know that's part of the symptoms of some people are affected by EMF in that aspect. You guys would know more about this than I do.
Mm.
Being sick to your stomach or nauseous or whatever.
Well, there's been so many different things detected within circles, and it depends on where the circle is and when it happened and the size of it and what it's made out of. There's 101 things, and EMF has been detected inside of circles. So concentrated that literally once you step into the circle, the EMF is so high you get nosebleeds, and the minute you step out, it's completely gone. It's unreadable on a meter.
Yep.
But that goes along with anything else, sounds and microwaves.
Cell phone
It's
signals even. You can
Yeah.
hold
Yeah.
your phone inside, take it out, hold it out just with your arm, and your signal will be back.
hmm
See, that kind of reminds me when I was in Hiroshima, 20 plus years ago. We went up to visit where the first atomic bomb was dropped up at Peace Park in Hiroshima, and it was an open air park. It was Hiroshima is a big town or a big city, and traffic everywhere. It's really busy roads right in front of the park. It was open air. There was not really even a fence. You could just walk into the park. But as soon as you walked in, you couldn't hear anything. Outside the park, you could hear nothing. Now, I don't know if that was architecture or the way they had stuff built in there, but yeah, it was weird to me.
That's interesting.
Yeah. There's so many different kinds. So like it would probably behoove us to break down what a crop circle is and get started off, especially for those people listening who may not know exactly what a crop circle is, besides the funny looking geometric pattern you saw in your evening news one night in a field. So there's 3 different kinds. Basics, going down to basics, and that's where they're found. So the ones that we're talking about, the ones that you find in fields, are called agriglyphs. So there's those. You have pteroglyphs, and those are the ones found in dirt and sand. They don't happen just in the grass. And then you have pictographs, which are the ones found in snow and ice. Yeah. They're almost just as prevalent as the grass ones. But the problem is with snow and ice, it's gone so fast that they're not as well recorded and not even talked about as much. The ice and the snow ones are found most often in Russia, oddly enough. It's kind of the mecca for those.
Well, that does not surprise me. There's a lot of ice and snow in Russia.
True.
Yeah. So when you're breaking down a basic true crop circle, so you've got grass or crops laid down unbroken, right? With or without expulsion nodes. And expulsion nodes are where the knuckle is in most crops. That little knuckle part, like if you think of a flower, it has that little knuckle before you hit the bud. Those sometimes will have a little teeny tiny burnt hole in it. And they've noticed that a lot, and they're pretty sure that's from the microwaves.
That's pretty weird.
Yeah. Actually, it's kind of, they know how it works. They don't know why there's microwaves there, but they know how it works. So if you have expulsion nodes, it means that the crops or the grass was older, because all of these crops and the grass has moisture inside of it. And when the microwaves hit it real fast, it superheats them and it steams. So that's how you get crops to lay over. That's why they lay over so nicely without being broken. Young crops won't have expulsion nodes because they can still stretch. So they'll stretch real nice right where they've bent, and they'll lay over. The older crops and grass will blow out at the expulsion nodes and lay over from the heat. They'll wilt. So you've got that. So you've got no signs of entry or exit and no footprints inside. And true crop circles show this. A lot of the times there's loose dirt and soil on the first layer. that they can literally see when they step down into the circle, it'll plume up a little bit, and no footprints.
Mhm.
So how you do that, I have no idea if you're faking it. Like Pam was talking about, strange recordings inside, strange feelings inside. Animals don't want to be inside of it. People have come up with horrible health complications from having stayed inside one for too long. And one of the most interesting things about crop circles that I don't think a lot of people realize is beyond just them laying down, they have this gorgeous sheen to them that you can see from all angles. And more often than not, within these circles, what we see this lovely grass pattern, but what you don't see is that underneath that grass pattern is another layer of grass coming in underneath of it. And then on top of that, and it will be braided or woven. Yeah, there's actually a couple of circles you can go and see, and that woven is part of the pattern within it. So you'll have like two circles meet, and right where they meet at, it's this gorgeous woven section. So I don't understand how a human being could sit there and layer upon layer without breaking the grass or disturbing the soil, lay those down.
Yeah, I don't get it.
That's weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're watching this picture here, is kind of what she was talking about. I think you can see the trails coming in. Where people are walking in. This is obviously a man-made one. It looks like a yin and a yang and all that.
It may not be a man-made one. Those may be the trails from the people that came to Looky Loo.
Oh, you got a point.
That is true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Crop circles sometimes remind me of the images you get when you are looking at the patterns of sound frequencies. You put the filings on a plate and then you use the sound to, let me show you. Had I had a little more time to research, I bet I could have found some matches. But let me show you real quick what I'm talking about. And here we go. Can you guys see that?
Yep.
Well, try that one.
Like when you put the sand on a speaker.
Yeah. So, and there's a lot of things that really goes with. We can talk about sacred geometry and all sorts of stuff with that sometime, but
there's the one that was decode. It took them like 5 years to decode because I couldn't figure out what the heck it meant, and then it took one guy to realize it was pi.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Oh,
that
wow.
was so cool.
Yeah, that one was in Wiltshire in 2008. If you want to hunt it up, it's so interesting.
It is
how it's set up. There's these circles that go, this one continuous circle that goes around it, and every once in a while the circle will jag off.
Yeah, it like drops
and continue.
Wow.
And it does it in weird little it's not one of the prettiest crop circles you've ever seen, but it took a guy to finally realize the distance in between those notches is pi. It was down to like the tiniest percentage off.
Wow.
It's really cool. I can't remember where I saw that, but I did see that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm seeing a whole bunch.
Yeah.
It took like a Wiltshire is the hotbed. They still hold the title like in 91 or something like that. They had over 70 in one season.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so I found it, but here's my old school. I'm going to hold my phone up so y'all can see it.
I do that too. It's okay.
There,
Okay.
if you go to those notches correspond with pi.
Yeah, if you look up pi formation, PI formation, Wiltshire 2008, and you'll be able to find it if you want to pull it up for everybody. And the hilarious thing is that's not even one of the most interesting ones.
Okay, here we go.
Crop circles are some of these are just amazing.
Yeah.
You know what I thought was interesting, and I think
Well,
if I remember right, it was in Colin Andrews' book talking about how some of them even are reminiscent of jellyfish,
Yeah.
but that's something, and they're like, but we don't, there's no aliens or whatever that are like jellyfish.
How do we know?
But exactly. And since that time, just recently, looking through different types of light and filters has shown something in the sky that is reminiscent of jellyfish, which I thought was really cool.
Self-portrait.
Right?
Yeah, here's a better picture.
There it is.
Yeah, there it
That is a
is,
good
yes.
picture.
Now, the interesting thing about this one is what makes this one special, besides it took so long for somebody to decode it. By the way, it was an astrophysicist. It took an astrophysicist to figure out what the heck was going on. This was one of the first times where the farmer whose field it was reported that when they found it bright and early, right when the sun came up in the morning, they could hear this popping sound. And they finally figured out that it was the sound of the grass and the crops lifting back up. It had literally just happened before he walked out into that field.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And once he reported that, then others from before and then others after him came and said, oh, yeah, we could hear that popping sound too. We could see the grass wanting to relift. So it had literally just happened. I think my favorite one was called the Julia set.
I was
No, it
talking
wasn't
seen
about
that one.
Yeah.
The one by Stonehenge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Spell that.
that one I think is one of the most amazing stories I've ever heard in my life. And it's the first time that they had an eyewitness and a report.
It's Julia, Julia.
Julia.
Yes.
Mhm.
And it's from July 1996.
Is that
Yeah,
that
July
one you told me
7th?
about the guy
July
flying
7th,
over it?
yeah.
Yeah. So what people don't know is that, like, right there at Stonehenge, that's a flight zone for a school, right? They fly over that thing all day long, every day, back and forth, literally just trips back and forth over the top of it. And it was Busty Taylor was the pilot. He actually became quite famous with crop circles after this.
He's one of the
But
OG.
he had gone out with a student and had flown over the top of the field by Stonehenge and saw absolutely nothing, like always. Flew out, went around, came right back again, and there was a full on, this crop circle right there. And the insane thing is that Stonehenge was busy that day. There was lots of tourists, and there was lots of tourists that witnessed this happen right in front of their eyes. And one lady gave her full account, and I have it here if you want to hear it.
Go ahead.
It's kind of interesting. Okay. So, and I'm going to read it just like she said it. So it's a little weird sounding. There was a mist about 2 to 3 feet off the ground, and it was spinning around and around on the ground. A circular shape was appearing, which seemed to get bigger and bigger as simultaneously the mist got bigger and bigger and swirled faster. The mist wasn't anything from the ground, as there was a clear space between the ground and the mist. There was no wind and no dust. It was the strangest thing I've ever seen, and it was a calm summer's day. So they literally watched in this field beside Stonehenge this huge mist form, and it started to swirl. And it was just barely above the ground, but they couldn't see what was happening underneath. And when this finally cleared, there was a full-on crop circle. It happened in broad daylight.
Within like
Yeah.
15 minutes.
Yeah.
There was a
fact that
lot of
he
witnesses
flew,
for that.
And there was a lot
Yes.
of
People
witnesses.
were-
A lot of people were pulled over watching this.
hmm So how do you
Huh.
fake that?
Right.
Yeah,
And apparently
that's-
this isn't the only one that's happened there. They happen all the time around Stonehenge, which is hard enough to do. That place is so heavy with traffic. And they also happen near huge old monuments everywhere. They're like prone to them.
Huh.
Oh, that's
Places
wonder
of
if
power.
interesting.
Or, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I was gonna say, I wonder if it's the energy like coming off, say, Stonehenge or whatever. You know, it's kind
Maybe.
I don't know.
One of the theories, one of the first working scientific theories was that it's plasma vortex, which who knows? It could be.
Well, that
Well,
would
there's let's go ahead.
that would explain fractals, which appear in nature
Mhm.
appearing in crop circles, because if it is natural and uh, fractals are natural, then it just stands to reason that it could happen.
Yeah, because I mean, a plasma
Yeah.
vortex, it's basically it's like a rotating field of electrical, air,
Mhm.
electrified air. So yeah.
Yeah.
It,
S-
and
So
the
they,
fact that it's the mist, that's what really
yeah.
fascinates me too, because look at time storms. Look at different things that have the mist or the fog or, something comes in with it.
Mhm. The plasma thing also lends to, they have an entire working theory right now. So a lot of these farmers and stuff have claimed that the majority of the crop circles show up during very dry times. And many of the places where they're prevalent, especially like Wiltshire, is setting on a bed of chalk, which is very drying anyway. And the way the farmers can farm is that there are these aquifers that sit on top of the chalk beds. But in the dry times, those waters recede and the chalk is kind of brought forward. And there's an ionizonic charge that happens when this water recedes like that. And it creates that objection with the plasma and supposedly creates these. That's what one of the working theories is right now. They're trying to test.
The only problem with that is these theories are great, but they don't go along with, of 100% of crop circles, roughly probably 80% of them are man-made. So there's that other 20% out there that are not.
That
And
nobody
that's the
knows.
20% that we're looking at. Yeah. But no one theory fits with all of these 20% that are out there. That's the frustrating part. That's why it hasn't been.
And you see strange like that stuff like that forming on the ocean floor sometimes too.
Mhm.
Now some
See,
of
I've
them
not
have
heard of
been
that.
some of them have been attributed to fish making nests for mating, but
Mhm.
some of them have not.
Yeah.
And again, water is a great medium for moving things. So could
Yeah.
it be a natural frequency causing these things? Either magnetic or audio?
It could be. They find there's many circles where they have strange audio problems.
Mhm.
There was a famous one, and I can't remember where it was. It was in England somewhere, but the BCB came in, or not the BCB, excuse me.
Cheesefoot.
Yeah. They came in and their audio equipment just could not be used because the minute they turned that equipment on, they got a sound like 1,000 people screaming at the same time.
Wow.
In a super low register. They couldn't use any of the audio. They couldn't film inside. The crazy thing was like their camera batteries would completely die inside, just drain. It would show no energy inside. And the minute they stepped out of the circle, the batteries would be full again.
If I remember right, Colin Andrew on his website, he has those sounds from the BBC on there.
Mhm.
Oh, I'd love to
And
hear
yeah.
that.
you need to check it out for sure. And
They are creepy.
They are creepy, and they're like really beep beep boo boo kind of thing. And then some of them, when they've slowed them way down, they're even creepier because they are this crazy pattern that you can hear.
Well, Tesla said that everything comes down to frequency.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
We've talked about frequencies with a lot of different, paranormal things that we have looked at. Yeah, I think it's wild.
well, when you think about it, a lot of these things that may or may not be paranormal could be natural. We just attribute them to paranormal because we don't understand them. Like I said,
A lot of these. Did you find it?
Well, sorry, I don't know if you guys. I'm trying to find it. I found
He
his
talks a
website.
little bit. You might have found it because he talks for a little bit and then it starts playing the sounds.
Here,
That
You might have to run forward a little bit.
I'm trying to figure out where it's coming from. Can you guys hear that?
Barely.
See, what the heck? Hang on. No, I think he's just being interviewed.
Hmm.
You and
Oh,
Nick
can
were
you guys
actually
hear that any
working
better?
together quite in Washington,
That's better.
D.C., where you were, you tell me what you were doing.
Well, we were both presenting
Trying to find it here.
we had two presentations to make for the X conference.
Most of his stuff,
which is a
I think,
kind
now
of
is
a
on
political
YouTube.
organization attempting to encourage the United States government at this point in particular to do
Sound
what the
heard in
United
crop circles
Kingdom
first
has
recorded in
done.
1989.
That sounds
That might
right.
be it. Yeah.
Well, let's see. I'm trying to see if he'll play it. You're just showing the sound waves.
What I'd like to see is those sound waves from that recording applied to one of those plates to see what it got as an image.
Oh, to see if maybe it would
Oh.
recreate the circles
Yes,
or something close to it. That would be
That's
interesting.
that would be an
Yeah.
interesting experiment. Because if they are like an audio pattern or something that happens in nature, possibly you could recreate it and prove that some of these are from natural sources.
I'll dig around and see what I can't find.
Yeah,
Um,
it might be. I'm looking too because
Okay.
I know the Astonishing Legends guys, they did like a whole huge 3-part series on crop circles. So if you really want to deep dive, it's fascinating. They did it like, oh my gosh, it was like mid-year last year, I think, is when they did that series. But they're really good to put links to all of their references on their show notes. So
Unlike us.
they're good. I mean, everything. They put the books down. They put everything that you could possibly have a question about. So I bet it might be on their
Let's see.
website somewhere too. A link to that.
Well,
But
George he showed it out to the sound as all this was happening. Make us a circle. Make us a
I
circle.
don't know if you guys can hear that or not.
I can hear
Yeah.
it.
I first of all want you to hear the sound, and then we'll get back to make us a circle. This is the sound that was recorded just a few moments later. It continues. You've got little pieces here. It's continuous. Now this is slowed down 50%, so you can hear.
that's it. Or that's one of them.
That is weird.
Hmm.
That's 5.2, 5.4 kilohertz in audible frequency, which has shown up now on a number of occasions within 0.2 of the same frequency. You'll see. Over the hill the next day, official Hampshire police photographs.
You're
They
getting
actually had a
some
ground unit come to our control
publicity on that.
facility and told us that over the top of the hill where we were, there was a new circle with a ring. And that's their photographs taken of this circle with a ring, which appeared to have responded to George's request. This was the headline, British newspapers shortly after, July
see.
89. UFO blast with the sound much like this. So I've got a lead stuck on the back of me here, and that was very
Is that all
similar.
he, is that all he plays, I wonder?
To an interview we were doing for BBC Television for another program. I had finished my interview, came to the edge of the circle, a large circle, this one here.
Might let him go for
Over
just
here.
a second.
TV crew there, got a camera, he's got a big boom
This is
going
what I'm
up.
thinking of.
Into the circle goes Pat Delgado for his interview. And as he's set up, he's on air, they just kind of brought him in, it's being filmed for a later television segment. Suddenly I can hear the sound. And, you know, once heard, never forgotten, you've just heard it. This shrilling sound is coming out of the headset of the sound guy, just as Dan is back there now with his headset on. And the guy's going like this. It's like, my God. Pat Delgado, at the same time, some of you might have seen the footage. Remember, the camera's still rolling. And Pat's going, it's all around me. It's all around me. It's being caught by his microphone, the lead, the transmitter here. He's inside the energy field, and his hair on his head is rising, his arms. He's feeling the electrostatic field, and they're recording for the second time the sound. Well, we headed at their invitation. Incidentally, all the red lights are coming up on the television camera, and after a couple of minutes or so, the television camera was destroyed. Not before they had it in the can, the actual footage, the recording in the can, taken away to Birmingham Pebble Mill Studios, where we were invited to do a live piece on air a couple of days later. And this is what happened there. This is us and much younger Colin Andrews on the end with Pat. And this is the sound engineer as it was happening. He's trying to squelch it out and do all kinds of things here. It isn't having any of it. This is Pat saying, it's all around me. I can feel it. Television camera over here is destroyed. Well, they come on air. They're going down 10 seconds on air. 9, 8, 7, 6. On the segment comes, they're going from national news in Great Britain to the studio to do this piece. They start running the footage, and as they got to the actual clip itself, out went all supply to the entire studio. So all of that happened. Everybody in Britain knows about all this stuff because it literally terminated the program. The automatic generators kicked in and, of course, brought the whole thing back up. And so that is the BBC sound. I don't think there's any real point in me pressing it. It's the same stuff. 6.6 kilohertz recorded by BBC Television. They're very good friends.
It's pretty cool.
That was pretty cool right there.
Yeah. Freaky sounds.
Yeah, you get crazy stuff happening in some of these circles.
And they're talking about Pat Delgado. He was one of the 3 OGs up there with what's his name? The pilot, Busty. Yeah, and then Colin Andrews. They were the 3 that really started doing this back in the day. Delgado, he was an engineer. I can't remember what specific type of engineer he was, but he was not a dumb man. You know, he was not easily swayed. So yeah,
I liked so Busty really went off in an interesting direction, which we haven't even brought up yet. The iron ore samples pulled from the majority of these crop circles. It's another little known thing that happens in many of the true circles. They find all sorts of different metals that shouldn't be there. So they found ones that have iron glaze. The crops and the grass are literally glazed with iron from the center working out.
That is crazy.
It gets crazier than that. Many of them, like 60% of them, have these little teeny tiny iron balls in the first 3 inches of soil. Like teeny tiny BBs, perfectly round, like they were shaped that way, just filled in that first 3 inches. They'll find these little iron balls. They'll also find other coatings of metals and stuff underneath. That have no worldly being. There's no way that they should be in a field whatsoever. And they have these theories about how it works with the microwaves and the plasma and all of this other stuff. But they're literally sitting on sample after sample after sample of all of these metals. And they have really weird makeups within them. You know, when a man makes, when we make man-made iron, there's impurities and things within it. We add different kinds of metals to strengthen it or to soften it. And these don't have those counts in it. These are something altogether, something different.
That's interesting. I was wondering about the plasma vortexes. I wonder if they could create I wonder if they would react to regular iron or regular metal ore, and then cause it to vaporize and then condense into the little spheroids.
You know, if you think about the way that what is the word I'm looking for? old guns back in the Civil War. You know, they had
Yeah,
the balls. What are they called?
yeah, bullets.
I'm blanking. Not bullet. I can't think of the word. Musket ball kind of thing. The little bitty
Yeah.
ones. The way that those were made in bulk was it was poured through basically like a sieve, and when those pieces would fall, they would fall in pretty much completely round circles.
That's how they made
Right.
shotgun pellets. Yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
And the ones that weren't completely round, they'd take them back and remelt them and run them through again. What if it's something like that with the plasma vortex? What if it's coming through and it's just dripping down basically? And who knows?
Yeah, it's crazy stuff. So odd metals aren't the only things that they found. They found in the ones that have the prettiest sheen, that have the glassiest look to them, actually have silica in them. And this is the craziest thing. I've looked it up here to make sure I get the numbers right because it's insane. So they have found soda lime silica compound, right? It looks like glass. It's so clear. The only place you find it is in magnetite. And in magnetite, it's so little that it's hard to extract it. What they have found in these crop circles is 800 times the amount you can find in a piece
Oh,
of
wow.
magnetite.
That's amazing.
That's
That is
how
crazy.
condensed it is.
That is
So
amazing.
and you don't find that anywhere on Earth. It's not found. So how does that happen?
I wonder how hard it is to manufacture.
You can. They can't hardly get it out. It's so
Nearly
tiny.
impossible. Yeah.
So if it's something that even scientists have trouble manufacturing, a hoaxer has no way
No,
of
they're
creating
going
it.
not,
Yeah.
So that's what I'm hearing is if you find that substance, you know it has to have been something unexplainable.
Yeah. I mean, and it's just, I believe in the true crop circles. I'm not saying I know where they come from or what causes them, but I truly believe that they are something beyond us. Besides the crap that you find in them, just the sheer size and volume of some of these. The largest one they've ever found was in the Wiltshire, England area again. And this one had 409 circles built into it
Wow.
in a spiral. It was 447 yards wide. That's nearly 5 football fields.
Yeah.
And it was in one man's field, this farmer's field. He left it very late that night. He said just as the sun was setting because he was working late. And he got up just as the sun was coming up and it was there. And they estimated that in order to create the size of this thing, there would have had to been a circle made once every 30 seconds to complete it in time, from the time that he left that field to the time he came back.
That's
How
not
big it was.
possible
The
unless
manpower
it was
that would have
created
taken,
instantaneously.
Yeah.
There's no way. Yeah.
Yeah. And the great thing about it is there's kind of proof within the pictures that it wasn't a whole bunch of people that came in and made this real quick. There was no paths in and out. And it was in an area where there was just very teeny tiny 1-lane dirt roads in and out. And if there had been that many people in to make it, the amount of traffic and the ruination of the crops would have been tremendous. It actually ruined his entire field of crops. He lost his crops that year because of that. But it kind of made up for it because it was the world's largest and still is to this day. He made money off of the people to come in and see it. So
Well,
there's
good
that.
for him.
Yeah.
Yeah. At least he had some solace off of it.
Yeah. In fact, if you want to look it up, you can. It was made August 13th, 2001 in Wiltshire, England. It's pretty amazing.
That sounds pretty amazing.
Mm-hmm. It's actually
that's one of
you'll
those
probably recognize it when you see it. It's one of the most famous patterns now, and they use this pattern for other things now. You'll see it on T-shirts and not even as a crop circle design, as an actual just design. It got so popular.
Now, what I'm wondering is if it is
There it is.
there it is.
So pretty.
I'm wondering if that is a fractal.
Yeah.
Because I'm seeing these images. I've seen the circles like this in several of the other crop circles. So
Mhm.
Mhm.
is
I
this
mean,
a
it is a
natural occurring
fractal.
pattern?
Look, if you look at what a fractal is, it's just a simple repeating natural pattern in something. We may not know how it's made, but we know it happens all the time in nature. I mean, look at snowflakes, they're fractals. Look at conch shells, look at trees, even trees, with their branches and their leaves and everything are considered fractal. Roots,
Mhm.
everything.
Well,
Yeah.
the tinier parts of the circle, again, yeah, there they are in that one too.
Mhm.
So the tinier parts of that circle were also in that other one from Wiltshire that we looked at around Stonehenge.
Yes, exactly.
So it, it's a little bit strange to be a
Yeah.
coincidence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How you fake that? I don't know. And speaking of fake, do we want to discuss and laugh at Dave and Doug?
Oh,
God.
Dave and
I
Doug,
actually
yeah,
sent Mark a picture to show a classic Dave and Doug.
yes.
Ooh.
I
Let's
did.
see.
So we're looking at all these different things that show the fractals and the gorgeous geometric patterns. And this is what he's getting ready to show is a classic Dave and Doug.
Their drunk ass attempt.
So these two guys, basically who Dave and Doug were, it's Doug Bauer and Dave Chorley. And in 1978, they got the brilliant idea to start hoaxing crop circles. And so they spent 13 years, I think.
You left out the best part. They came up with this cockamamie idea while they
the
were
bar.
drunk at
Yeah.
the bar, because that's where they went every night, because they didn't like being by their wives.
Can you
Yeah,
guys see
and
this?
They had this
Somebody
brilliant
was like-
plan.
You can.
Yeah, see, there's their
Uh-huh.
look at their
Yeah.
their beautiful. Now, if you see the half circles up at the top, that's their signature. It's DD, Dave and Doug.
Yeah, yeah. It's
But boy, isn't that
obviously
pretty.
not
Mhm.
very professional, is it?
Looks like they went straight there from the bar.
Yeah, yeah. It looks like they might have been drinking while making it.
Yeah.
you need to come over and
Yeah.
you need to
They-
come over.
they
We'll
made
have
some
some
of the
drinks
most
and we'll
in-
try it out in the pasture.
What was funny was
I'm game.
one of the guys, I can't remember which one, his wife was like, they were like, didn't you realize that he was doing this all these years? And she's like, no, I never realized he was doing this. And he would spend half the night making them. And they're like, okay, he must have been a real peach if, she didn't even realize he wasn't home.
Oh my gosh.
Or she didn't
For
care.
13
It's more
years.
likely. Oh God, I'm.
We
thank
should
God
have
he's not home
recreated.
yet.
We should have recreated that crap that they used to measure everything out. They had like these wonky glasses and strings with things hanging from their heads, and yeah.
And they like,
so beyond this, in 1991, they told the world that all of the crop circles that had ever been done was done by them, which is absolutely ridiculous because the first recorded crop circle ever made was like back in the 1600s or something like that, like
Right.
recorded. Lord knows how many that came before then. But yeah, and which was hilarious because by the time 91 happened, so there was a huge, I think it was like in 86 or 87, Wiltshire, England had like 6 of them done in the same county on the same night. And at that same time, there was like 3 in New York. There was a couple over on the coast. There was a few in Russia. There was like this huge amount made all overnight. And they claimed they did them all. So unless they have some awesome frequent flyer miles and some like jets that can go faster than the
that
speed
must
of
be some
sound,
good
or
beer. I don't know.
I've got a question. Have you ever been so drunk that you became extra dimensional?
I
might
felt
have.
like it.
They put themselves into plasma vortexes. They were so
Yeah.
drunk. Maybe that's where all the silica came from.
From
Not what I
Yes.
think the fault is.
now there is something interesting to the Dave and Doug story. So never mind the idiocy and we did them all and, blah, 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 blah. There is working theories right now, and a lot of it's kind of pointing this way, that Dave and Doug were hired by outsiders, that they were working with MI6.
Trying to discount it.
Yes, because later on down the line, it started occurring more and more. There was people getting thrown under the bus, getting used to discount crop circles by the government,
One of them.
Wow.
by the British government. Yeah, Colin Andrews, he got chucked under
He
the
did big
crop
time.
circle bus.
Wow.
So he was called out for a huge one that happened out in this field. It actually happened supposedly live in front of a few people, like they watched it from the window happen, and they called him in to verify it. And he got there, and before he could even really review it and really get out there and look, a camera crew came in and was asking him to speak on it. And he was like, oh, I haven't really seen it yet. And they were like, just tell us what it is. Tell us that it's real, blah, 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 blah. And they coerced him into finally saying, yeah, crop circles are real. And they threw it up on the news. And then later on showed that it wasn't real, that it had been a faked one. It literally was a faked one. And it was their way of like throwing it up on for the whole world to see. Yeah, they're
Trying to
super
discredit
faked.
the whole-
Yeah, if he faked this one, he's faked everything.
Exactly. He just got chucked under the bus.
He did.
And they know for certain they traced that back. That was an MI6 thing. They were working at the time to.
It was wasn't it a Japanese news station that came in, or TV?
Yeah, it was
Station
something like,
something.
it was just all sorts of weirdness thrown in. He should have
Yeah.
seen the red flags coming in, but
Well, we should have seen one too the other day when we got trolled. So I mean,
now,
not
so
gonna blame
here's the ultimate question. So, MI6 is involved and they're trying to discount it. Why are they trying to discount crop circles? Why?
why are they?
Why would they
spending
even
so much
care?
so much taxpayer money to discredit something if it's nothing?
Yeah, it would be like the Scottish government like spending a good fortune trying to disprove Loch Ness. What's the point?
Yeah.
When they could be using that money to strengthen their army or to, blah, 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 blah. Why?
Ban plaid. They could have used that
Yeah.
money to ban plaid.
To ban
Meanwhile-
plaid.
Yeah.
Man, plaid is bad.
Yeah.
Plaid.
Meanwhile,
Going on
while
in
that's
Europe.
going on in England, pretty much the same thing is happening in the US. And the whole lot of that is happening in Canada. Boy, you want to talk about non-disclosure? Canada's worse than everybody put together. Canada just now within the last couple months started just barely talking about the UFO scene going on right now.
Yeah.
They
Did
would
you catch
not.
what our-
They
Did
wouldn't
you catch
talk
what our
about it.
government came out and said?
Oh yeah,
No.
the New York Times, or is that what you're talking about? They came out and
Maybe.
said that it's all fake again.
Yep.
That it's sky trash.
Yep, sky trash.
They said all that stuff that we
Chinese
saw is
drones.
just sky
That is
trash.
insane. Once it's out, you can't stuff it back in.
Oh,
I mean,
they're
Yeah.
stuffing it.
They're
stuffing it
trying.
back in
They're
They're
stuffing
trying.
something, and it's probably
with sky
Wow.
trash.
Yeah.
whatever. That's the biggest crock I ever
Sorry,
heard.
we threw it out of the
Yeah.
International Space Station, and it just came in from 80,000 feet.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
No, and I'll tell you what, at Paracon, I thought it was so cool that some ladies that I knew, and they're older, one of them's in her 90s, and she came up after one of the talks, one of the panels, and was telling me just spontaneously the story that she had honestly kind of forgotten about. She said from like the 50s of when she saw a UFO between Katy and Coffeyville. And which was really cool. So I'm going to have to sit down. She told me she would. I got to sit down with her and get her story and get it down so we don't lose it.
Yeah.
But
That-
that's neat.
That guy that came up and talked to Mark and I right before that panel, that's where he was saying. He was saying it was over in between Coffeyville and Caney.
Really. And,
And
you
he
know,
was
that was the 50s. It's not space trash, especially in the 50s.
right.
Nuts.
Oh, they're not even calling it space trash. They're saying it's sky trash.
Sky trash. Oh,
Yeah, like it's within our
What?
atmosphere.
Yeah.
They're claiming like even like the Tic Tac and stuff that the New York Times was the first one to come out and say, yes, this is the government saying
Yeah.
that this is an actual UFO. We're claiming it's a UFO.
yeah.
That same newspaper is now saying, oh, the Tic Tacs weren't that. It was space. It was not space. It was sky trash. That's what they're calling it now. Sky trash. What is
Yeah,
sky
that's-
trash?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard that Noah had seen those that way. That's wild. Very cool.
Yeah,
But
Chris said that's where Noah's seen a few on the way to Tyro.
the I forget what I was going to say. That's not a
Sorry.
bench. No, that's okay. Squirrel.
I want to go out there and set one night when we get a chance and it's clear.
Definitely.
I want to go out and set. Now, I was impressed. We were, when I went down to hang out with Ben and Joe here a couple of weeks ago now, we were hanging out by our cabin because they had a burn ban down there because it's so dry down there as well. But they said we could use the propane fire pits and stuff. And luckily we had one next to our cabin. So they come over and we're hanging out. And there was a lot of light, ambient light and stuff like that. But Joe, that guy could pick stuff moving in the sky like it was crazy up high.
That's neat.
I mean, no matter how slow it was moving, there was one you could barely tell it was moving. Excuse me. But we saw a bunch of stuff moving up there. I don't know what. A lot of it was satellites, I'm sure, but I couldn't believe how fast he was picking this stuff out. But I'm sure he does it all the time.
Yeah.
I remember that one time we went out.
What's
How
up,
many
Sonny?
satellites did we see?
Oh, tons, man.
Hi, Sunny. So, staying with the crop circles because we're getting off topic again. So
Really?
let's move away from the agriculture ones. So let's move into the dirt and sand based ones. What?
Okay, real quick. I did see
Okay.
one that was interesting. I want to catch your
Okay.
thoughts on it real quick. I've got a picture pulled up real quick. Let's see. Have you seen this one?
Yeah.
I have.
Yeah. See this here now. I
Binary
mean,
code.
it looks like almost like a QR code.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's
It
binary.
really does.
It's binary code, and they've actually said what they think it says. Let me find it. I actually have it written out if you like to hear it.
Oh, cool.
It might take me a second to find it. I don't know which page it's on.
Is it that one where the 4 different linguists tried to attack it and they all came up with 4 different things?
This is the one. Hang on. I don't know if that's it or not. It might be actually. Okay, here. Let's see. Is this it?
Trying to find it. I have too many circles listed. I have pages after pages of interesting stuff.
Oh, here it is. I found it.
Okay.
Okay, so the doctor, his name is Dr. Drew, believes he has decoded some of these messages. And this particular one is supposed to say, much pain, but still time. Believe there is good out there. Beware the bearers of false gifts and the broken promises. We oppose deception. Conduit closing. That's what that
Yeah.
supposedly says.
I
That's
remember
an
that
awful
one.
The
lot
top
for
picture is
such a
supposed
small
to be,
binary
you can tell that
code.
it's like
Is.
partial alien.
It's
phase.
also it's also one of the ones that they're uncertain if it was a true crop circle or not. It was missing some of the things. It didn't have a sheen, and there was something else to it. So it could be, and it might not be. Frankly, I think it looks a little overproduced, like something some college kids would have come up with.
It does.
But that's just kind of my. I found the one. So there was one called the Alton Barnes Formation, and this one was in Wiltshire too. It's the hot thing. So this was actually a experiment that this group that did. They decided that they were going to go out and make a crop circle for the aliens and see if they would answer them back. So they went out and tromped with their own feet. It was like a messy one that said, "Talk to us." And they left, went to bed, got up in the morning. Nothing was there. That next night, however, in the field just next to it, a crop circle formed. And it had this weird kind of archaic, almost like an Ogham language. You guys know what Ogham is? The language of the trees. It's just the lines and sticks. And it was basically like that. And they took photos of it and they sent it out to 4 different linguists, these specialists. And all 4 of them came back with 4 different messages that they thought it said, and which I thought was kind of weird. But all the messages are really crazy. So there was one from Gerald Hawkins. He said it was in Latin, and he said it said, "I am against acts of cunning." The second one was Simon Burton, and he said it was also Latin, but he said it said, "I have hidden a present." The third one was Michael Green. He thought it was in Hebrew, and he said it said, "The Creator wise and loving." And the last one was Robert Borman, who also said it was in Hebrew, but said it said, "A new breed of people." But that one that was sent back to them supposedly was confirmed to be a true crop circle. It had the sheen, the explosion nodes, and a whole bunch of the other things within it, which of course theirs didn't. They literally just talked to us in a field.
Huh.
That Mark,
Kinda
that other
interesting.
picture that I sent you, kind of makes me think of that, the way that it's interpreted. This was another. It's the Hopi one. Going back to Colin Andrew again, I spent a lot of time on his stuff. But they had one that they found. He sent the crop circle to different people, different groups of people, trying to see if anyone had an idea of what could interpret it. And he sent it to some Hopi elders, and they looked at it, and what they came back with was, if there's going to be an interpretation, this is the one this one got me. This one got me. Did you get it?
I'm trying to get it to come up.
Okay.
I am not having much luck. Pull it up. And
it's not a normal, it doesn't have the beautiful fractals or anything like that. It's more of a elongated piece. But what they came back with, the Hopi elders, the only thing that they said was, "Mother is crying." There it is.
all right, there we go.
That's what they interpreted that as. And that one got me because it was the same. Let me look at the picture on my phone so I can read it, because I'm blind.
No, yeah, me too.
There it is. The day that this was formed was the same exact day the Gulf War began, which was August 4th, 1990.
Gotcha.
And a lot of these do correspond with large, events that take place on the earth on different places. But that one just, I don't know why, that one got me.
That would be difficult to plan,
Of everything you think they could come back with, that right there, it's like, wow.
Well, it's kind of weird. I mean, the Hopi prophecies anyway are to me are eye-opening.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to do a show on them. I mean, not this one, obviously, but I want to do a show on the Hopi beliefs. I mean, I've been fascinated with American Indian lore and legends and prophecies. And I'm like, man, how right are these guys? Because they were talking about the cabin in the sky, talking about, being interpreted as the space station. And it's just weird, but it's kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, we will have to look into that, because
That would be an
that is
interesting
great.
one. Never delved into those.
Chris is writing down our suggestions, so
Cool.
we won't get
Yay.
like we usually do.
All right.
Awesome.
So let's move on to Terraglyphs, because there's a really cool
Yeah,
one that I
let's
want
do
to talk about. So we always talk about all these crop circles and it ruins the crops, and stuff doesn't grow there for a while. There's even such a thing called ghost circles, and it's literally where there's been a crop circle before and the ground is so ruined that nothing will grow there for years, Or on the opposite side, stuff grows so lushly just there, you can see it for years and years afterwards, right? I really like the dirt ones because they almost always happen, and then there's a astounding result afterwards. So the best one that I found was called the Sri Yantra Formation, and it was in Eastern Oregon. So we kind of we get to pull it back into the States here. So this was 70 miles southeast of Burns, Oregon. It happened August 10th, 1990. On a perfectly dry lake bed. It had been under desert conditions for so long, nothing had grown there for years. The farmers and stuff in the area had literally been ran out of the area because there was no rainfall. It had literally turned to desert, right? So this circle was discovered by Idaho Air National Guard pilot Lieutenant Bill Miller. He was flying overhead. This area is also kind of like Stonehenge. It's a flight area for a school. So it's flown over 100 times a day, back and forth and back and forth. And this is one of those sites where it literally formed in 20 minutes. It was there and it was not there and then it was there.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Very cool. Now, so this place is really interesting. So it was on a perfectly dry lake bed. It was over a quarter mile wide. And it consisted of over 13 miles of lines dug out of hard pan, 3 inches deep and 10 inches wide.
Wow.
Hard pan. Okay.
Yeah.
So they sent in 2 researchers, Don Newman and Alan Decker. There was no signs of tire tracks or footprints, even though their own left 1/4 inch deep marks in the crusty surface of the dry lake bed. So you couldn't step on this without the pressure of it breaking that crust. There was a floating crust there from the dryness, and it broke it. No tire tracks, no footprints.
Wow. That's cool.
Right?
I like that one.
Yeah. You could only discern the shape of it. It was so big if you were at least a few thousand feet up above it. You had to
Wow.
be that high to grasp the looks of it, right? And 40 days after they found this, and it's still sitting there pristine because there's nothing to ruin it. There's no rain or anything like that. This group claimed that they had done it. So they challenged them. They said, well, you go in there beside it and recreate a portion of it for us. And they couldn't even, they took all of this like big rig equipment out there and just destroyed the path to it, just trying to get to the area to make it. And they were like, well, whatever. So they monitored this site and it slowly started kind of getting moved away by the wind and stuff. But within 2 years of that being formed there, rain started to finally fall in that valley, but it only fell within that quadrant. Right?
Oh, that's weird.
It gets better.
Yeah, weird.
So within a year after that of the rain continuously falling not continuously, but falling at regular intervals on this one spot, the grass came back up. Some of the native plants started coming back up. Animals started coming back into the area. And then animals that were not part of this area started showing up that were not native to Oregon.
They were drawn
And
to it.
plants that were not native to Oregon were suddenly growing in this area.
Wow.
Right? Brand new animal and plant species never seen in Oregon before
That's fascinating.
in this one spot. And it's still there today. Now, they've said since then, because this was back in the early 90s, since then, that area has kind of come back in just a little bit. It's gotten some rain and stuff, but that is still the most lush square there is.
That is crazy. And
They study it. There's these fantastic plants and animals in there that should not be anywhere near Oregon. I just think it's so interesting.
That is
That's
interesting.
interesting. And you know what that reminds me of is somewhere I ran
mandala.
across something that talked about crops that were grown in these areas, in these circles, or in these, patterns like this were like, I don't want to say magic, but they were healing. They were very good for you. They were very nutrition oriented, very nutrition laden. And that was highly sought after. And even now, along that same line, there are some companies, or a company that was producing beer and different foods out of specific crops that were found in crop circles.
Now, here's the coolest thing about this. Besides the new animals and blah blah blah, and that's amazing, but the symbol you're looking at, right, is a different version of, but the same symbol. It's called Shriyantra. It's a Hindu symbol.
Yep, that's the one I have on the right.
That symbol is literally the exact representation of the sound Om.
Oh, cool.
Ooh, cool.
Which is I thought it looked like a mandala.
Yeah. Yeah, that's I
Right
saw
there, you're
that.
looking at is Om. Yeah.
Yeah,
that
this first
cool?
one, that's the first thing I seen, and this popped up. The
That's
actual circle.
Chris, write this down. The harmonics.
Yeah, we've been talking about that for how
We've
long?
been talking about it for a while. Definitely something on the harmonics.
Yeah, that's pretty fascinating if you think about it. I mean, because it wasn't much time to be built, 3 inches deep and that big of a, quarter mile.
In hard pan.
Yeah.
That takes equipment. You can't do that by hand.
Right.
Not without ruining. You would just have to sit there and just chop and chop and.
It's almost
Yeah.
laser
Right.
precision.
See, and that
Yeah.
leads me to believe this is kind of I don't know. I've been on this kick. I don't know if it's a kick or if it's I don't know if I'd call it a synchronicity or not, but I've been on this kick of the whole spiritual warfare type thing, the good versus evil, but this leads me to believe this is more of a spiritual thing than it is a scientific thing, if that makes sense.
Some of it may be, again, we're coming back to, we've got all these different, the 20%, there's no one theory that fits every single one of them. That could be a theory especially for this particular one.
Right. See, I want to look up something real quick.
Well, just touching on the harmonics again, a lot of those mandalas actually match, just like this one, match the sound on one of those plates. So it just keeps me thinking that somehow the real ones might have a natural. I mean, maybe it's not aliens at all. Maybe it's just nature.
Yeah, exactly. When you look at the patterns that pop up on the like the speaker with the sand, when you put the sand on the speaker in it, as you increase the frequency, it makes bigger and or more. Man, I am
Geometric patterns.
have my words tonight. Yes,
We
more
got you.
When was-
patterns, more fractals, more repeating patterns.
When was that Kachina formed?
Kachina. Oh, the Shriyantra one?
Yeah.
August 10th, 1990
See, because
in Eastern Oregon.
I thought it was Kachina. I'm sorry. That's why I jumped on this, because there is a.
Kachina is Hopi. Maybe that's where you were.
Yes, yeah.
That's where I'm at, but I thought for some reason that's what it was called. But it's part of the Kachina prophecies of the Hopi. Yeah,
There's
so
that
that might have been
2012
again.
again.
Yeah. Yeah, that's where I saw that. Okay, never mind. I'm jumping to conclusions here. Thought I found something. Maybe I didn't.
It's
I
all
jump to
connected. We
conclusions
haven't
every
said
day.
it yet tonight. It's all connected.
Exactly.
So another interesting non-grass crop one was also one found in the U.S. This one was found in 1994 by a lady, also in Oregon. Oregon's a pretty hot spot for crop circles, which I
All
didn't
kinds
know.
of stuff, actually.
This lady was actually dowsing. She wasn't looking for crop circles or anything. She was dowsing a beach. I think she was looking for jewelry and stuff like that, kind of like you do with a metal detector, only she was dowsing. And she found a really weird energy pattern that she started following. And it led her to a crop circle made in the sand on the beach.
Oh, wow.
That's crazy.
Right? So she literally followed it through and the line continued and it took her into a cave nearby. Right?
All right.
So the line in the cave stopped at a wall where it probably continued on, but she couldn't go any further because there was literally a wall there. She went back out and she was so intrigued by it. She decided to take samples. So she took samples out of the cave on the line. She took samples in the cave off of the line. She took samples from the circle and she took samples from outside the circle and she took them all into a friend of hers who had a lab that actually worked on that kind of stuff. And they found out that the chemical makeup of the sand was completely different from every sample she had taken, as if they'd not
wow.
come from the same beach, but they had come from completely different parts of the world.
Oh, wow.
That's crazy.
cool.
That's how much the chemical makeup of the sand had changed, whether it was on this line, in the circle, or outside of. I thought that was pretty amazing.
That
That's
is
neat.
pretty amazing. And I am going to add this. That woman is very lucky she didn't get iseki'd, because that is how half the
Right?
anime
Goblin didn't get her.
and manga I read start.
I'm thinking goblins. You're thinking manga. Stay out of them caves, people. That's a big nope for me.
Yep. Not doing it.
Okay. So, in Edmonton, Alberta, in 1999, this little group formed of scientists who decided they were going to get down to the bottom of these crop circles and stuff. And they actually had a case come in, and it was kind of the same as hers. It's what kind of led me into it. Someone had found a crop circle in a cave, on the floor of the cave in the sand.
Oh, wow.
They went and viewed it and also took samples, and they actually did a deeper dive on the makeup of the sand that they found inside and outside the circle, and even a control that they took outside of the cave. And they found, and I'm going to read this almost verbatim so I don't get this wrong. Okay. Samples had a huge increase of crystallization in clay minerals that had never been seen in any surface soils before. Such changes are typically seen in sedimentary rock, which has been exposed to thousands of years of heat from the Earth's core and massive pressure from rocks above. The sand that they tested looked as if it had come from nearly the Earth's core.
Wow.
That's wild.
I'm not sure if that's cool or disturbing.
I know. That's
What was the image? A summoning circle for the gates of hell?
And unfortunately, this case study did not come with photos. So, and I don't even know if you could get a full photo of a circle made in a cave.
No photos of the demon summoning circle. You think I'm joking? I'm only half joking.
Oh my goodness. So yeah, I think the dirt, soil, and sand formations are almost more exciting than the field ones.
They seem to be more intriguing.
Weirdest stuff.
Yeah.
So moving on. So now we're going to go to water-made circles. And these you have to be a little bit more careful with. A lot of, especially like the eye circles, are actually made from eddies in rivers moving water. it'll freeze as it's turning and create these patterns. So when I went looking for them, I was really particular on the ones that I chose because some of them were just literally frozen eddies is all it was. So Moscow had a bout of them in 1991 of these snow rings. That's what they call them there, snow rings. That I found really amazing because they were all accompanied by ball light. They were all made at night, and almost all of them were seen being made with this ball of light over the top. Of course, they couldn't see what they were doing at the time. They just saw this ball of light moving around. But in the morning when they would wake up, they would find these formations. Now, the really interesting thing about snow formations, and I think these are even cooler than the crop formations, is that with these, the snow is not displaced. The snow is not melted. It's literally gone, as if somebody had taken a shovel and lifted it up out and took it far, far away where you couldn't see it. Perfectly formed, as if somebody had set like a mold down.
Wow. That's wild.
Yeah.
That's pretty weird.
And yeah, the fantastic thing about snow rings is nearly all of them continue to form after they've been first seen.
Huh.
So they grow or come back?
They grow, they continue to be made. So there is one set of researchers from Moscow that on several occasions have been called out to formations and have taken photos, left to go have lunch, came back to get photos from the other side and realized, oh, there's 3 more rings.
That's crazy.
But they're not seeing the snow disappear. It's just
Gone.
It's not displaced. They said it's crystal clear, as if like a mold had been setting down. There's no even lines, you know, like if you scoop your hand through the snow, that snow's missing, but you can see right along the edges of where you scooped at, like a little bit of it's kind of fallen over the edge. There's like a little crust to the side.
Yeah, it's never perfect.
Perfectly clean.
Wow.
And those snow rings will stick around longer than the snow around it. So as the snow naturally melts off with the rising temperature, it's the snow ring that stays the longest. It's the last to go.
Interesting.
Yeah. Now, here we're going to get even crazier. So a good portion of the time, once those rings are melted and gone, and summer has come and summer has gone, and we're back into winter again, and we get the next snow, oftentimes no snow will stick or it will melt off where that previous ring was.
No.
As if the ground there is now warmer than it
Maybe
should have been.
radiation?
Well, see, that's something interesting that you bring up, Phil, because I don't know about the snow rings, but I know on the agricultural rings, out of all of them that have been tested, only one of them showed trace amounts of radiation. None of the rest of them had any radiation at all in them.
That's the artist. Huh.
That's something else.
It's crazy.
Another interesting detail to many of these were seen being made. Second story bedroom windows, saw a light outside, stared forever. They only ever see the ball of light, but a lot of the times it had a buddy with it. So they would call it its tail. It wouldn't be attached to it, but it was like a little line of brilliant light that would follow behind the ball for some reason. And sometimes the ball would get a little further ahead of that and it would see it and then like try to catch up like a puppy would, like, or like a little kid, you know, they're not paying attention to where their mom and dad's going. Mom and dad gets a little further ahead and the kid notices and rushes to catch up. That's what it would do.
Wow.
Is it a cryptid? I mean, I don't know. It's just a question. You know, is it a cryptid
Or a multi-dimensional creature?
Yeah.
It's crazy stuff. They had it, and then well, you know, like Are all crop circles, or circles in general, I should say, because we're talking about all different kinds of circles, are they all made by the same thing? Or are they all caused by different things? Are we looking at different phenomena?
I think
It's almost like
probably
we're looking at different phenomena.
Mm.
Especially the difference between the dirt ones and the crop circles. And the dirt ones and the snow circles seem a little more similar. I don't know. It is weird, which makes
It is.
so much fun to talk about.
So that's what I have on the snow circles. They're harder to find pictures of because they don't last long. They come and go. The ice circles, I saw one picture of one, and that one was believable because it had more than circle shapes in it.
Okay.
It would be very hard. In fact, I think I have information here. Where is it? There is a website that you can go to. Oh, it's called BLT. So BLT is the head crop circle, I should say, research place in the world. And it's headed by John Burke, W.C. Levengood, and Nancy Talbot. And for short, they've named it BLT Research. So if you go to their webpage, it's literally www.bltresearch.com. They put all of their research on there. And I really like this group. So they won't put up any old thing. They have to have had at least one of them in the field to photo it. It has to have so much criteria to it before they'll post it. They'll post the entire story that goes along with it, any information they have, dates, times, blah, 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 any photos. And if for any reason they find out that it was faked or some kind of criteria falls away from it, they will discount it on that page. They will say, we're pretty darn sure this is a fake or it doesn't meet our criteria, so take it as you will.
Mhm.
So I really like this page. If anybody listening or whatever wants to go check it out, it's really interesting. And it's kind of how I back checked some of the ones that I was kind of getting into, because I found a ton of them that had these exciting stories that went with them. And then you look at the photo and go, mm-mm. And back check it against their catalog, and you would see, because they post the ones that are fake too, and be like fake, fake, fake. So
They
it's
spent
really
a lot of time.
I have to save that site. That sounds like a good
I'm gonna
Yes.
I'm gonna
Mhm.
share this real quick on there. This is on their site. This is these nodes that you've been talking about
yeah.
Mhm.
for the grass.
Yeah. I just always explain it. It's like that knuckle you see on a flower stem. Nearly all crops and even grass has them. If you look at the base of a grass stem right near the ground, you'll see a little tiny one. Most plants have them. They just call them nodes or knuckles.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty cool stuff on here.
It's a very cool website. They
Yeah.
spent so much time realizing, first off, that there needed to be some specific set of scientific evaluation for crop circles because they were so prevalent. And they spent a lot of time perfecting those and getting them to where they are today, so that there is a really huge body of work at this point that people can refer back to. They've done more for the entire crop circle phenomena than anybody, I think.
Huh.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's cool.
Mm.
Yep.
Yeah,
Now
it's-
for fun, if y'all want, I gathered up crop circles from the 4 states.
Oh, cool.
Nice.
Yeah. I'm gonna drink first. Ooh, whiskey sour.
Oh,
Okay,
not sharing either, are you?
I'm out of whiskey. I just ran
I'll
out.
share with you. You want some with it?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just gonna kind of read these through a little bit. I just put a little tag of information with each one. If there's anything really extraordinary to them, I added a little bit more. So June 14th, 2007, the Del Plain Formation in Arkansas. This one was made in wheat. It had an outer ring of 130 feet across. The farmer reported unusual animal behavior and complete irrigation system battery failure. The crop was severely shunted due to a bad drought, and stalks were only about 14 inches tall. So, yet again, a drought-like area is where this has happened at. So that was in Delaplane. I think that's middle lower Arkansas, somewhere down in there. We have the Reed Springs Formation in Clay County, Missouri in 1999. That's not that far away from here.
No.
This one was a 9-foot circle found in the grass in a cattle chute area. A ball of light was seen by the rancher before it was found. They found a large amount of magnetized particulate inside the soil in the ring.
Huh.
So another one where they found more metal.
Yeah, this is the Delaplane here that I'm showing.
Cool.
What was the other one you said?
The Reed Springs Formation in Missouri. Clay County, 1999.
Let's see what I can come up with here. Yeah, it's like Ikra, Missouri. Maybe that's it.
It might be it. Yeah, that makes sense because it was inside of a cattle chute.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not very big.
It was only 9 feet wide. But the crazy
okay.
thing was that the rancher saw it being formed. I mean, didn't see it formed. It saw the ball of light above it.
Right.
And then they found all that magnetized particulate in the ground underneath of it.
That sounds like the plasma vortex.
Mm-hmm. It does, doesn't it?
Yeah. So on June 21st, 1990, they had what they called the crop circle burst. And this happened across Missouri and Kansas in one night. So 7 circles formed all in one night in Osceola, Bates County, Oskell, Topeka, Kansas, and 3 just outside of Kansas City, Kansas.
Wow.
So the Odessa Formation, or they call it the Growing Formation, originally 50 feet across, over the course of several days, it grew and it mutated in shape until it was 125 feet across with a 75-foot rectangular pathway. A second area shaped like a mushroom was then discovered in the same field nearby. The discoverer of the circle was a driver who felt a sudden urge to go out of their way and drive to the location.
So compulsion kind of thing.
Yes, and this was
Interesting.
proven. It wasn't some kind of a setup where it was his job to lead the way to get people there to see it. He was from like California and was literally just driving through. And it was something hilarious. Like, he wasn't a cross-country driver. He was an in-state California driver, but he had just taken his first job to take stuff to the other coast.
Huh.
It was his first time in the area, and he said he had just had this overwhelming feeling like he needed to get off this path and go this way.
Wow.
And in a
That's
semi-truck in
That's
rural. Yeah. So the next one that happened that same night was the Bates Formation in Bates City, Missouri. It was originally 33 feet wide, found not far from the Odessa Formation on the same day. This circle also changed over a few days, adding a 30-foot long rectangular finger. Okay, the next one, the Jenkins Formation. Now, this one didn't happen that same night. Those 2 were the only ones where I could find full accounts from the night of the circles. The Jenkins Formation, this happened we're going back a little bit, 1978 in October in Jenkins, Missouri. This formation was made in the morning during daylight. Woman and grandson watched an object that was glistening sit stationary in their field until 9 a.m. They watched the object take off very fast. When it moved, it became very bright and metallic. It rose about 50 feet, where there was another larger oval-shaped object. They both flew away together. They left behind a 4.5-foot circle behind that had spiraled, scorched grass inside. So this is the first time we've got scorched grass. And now you're wondering, is this a crop circle or is this
I don't think it is.
leftover from a UFO?
Yeah, I bet you money it was irradiated.
Right? But wait. That's what I thought
wasn't?
too. I was getting ready to discount this whole story because I was like, this is a UFO encounter, right?
Mm-hmm.
When investigated, they found 3 more sets of circles in the field at measured points nearby. Smaller circles measured 8 inches, were swirled and scorched. Also, larger ones were up to 9 feet wide. They found a crop circle. The only thing is that the grandma and the kid only checked the one spot where they'd seen it sitting. They didn't have the wherewith to continue into the field,
Right.
and to keep looking. That was found later on by police because they called the cops.
Huh.
Well, I
Right?
would have too.
They were smart.
So another one happened in Delaplane in 2010, and this one looked like a beetle with pinchers. I couldn't find a picture of it. I could only find explanations for it.
Huh.
But I also didn't spend days hunting for it. I bet if I really
Right.
hunted, I could probably find it. We have the Peach Orchard Formation in Arkansas, June 2005. This one looked like a bicycle wheel sprocket, 100 feet around the center, tine, as in a noble circle, made of 3 layers of grass braided over one on top of each other. So it had 3 layers deep. Stalks had stretching, and a small bird's nest was found unharmed, still attached to one of the stalks.
Almost like it's an intelligence.
Yeah.
Oh, let's not mess with a bird.
Yeah.
The bird and the eggs were fine. So that all happened, and they were just still attached and fine. So we have the double moon form in Northeast Arkansas, and I couldn't find an exact date on this. It's early 2000s. I couldn't find an exact date. 2 moons back to back, centralized in a ring. Field was never sprayed for weeds, so there was morning glories growing in patches all through it. The weeds were completely unaffected, unlike the crop inside the circles. So
course.
wherever there was morning glories, those morning glories were standing straight and tall as if they had never been touched, and the crop was laid down around them.
That's wild.
So,
What does that mean?
So they're like the vegetative version of a cockroach?
They kind of are.
I don't know. I found several of them up the side of Kansas. None of them had very interesting stories to them. The closest one I think was early 2000s, but I couldn't. There was no good claims to it for me to write it down as something, as a true circle. It was just a little report. They do happen all over Kansas, but unfortunately, as you guys all know, Kansans don't report things
Right.
because we're civilized farmers and we don't talk about such things. So,
Right.
but they have been reported, but there's just not enough information on them because they're literally just little blogs, little spots at the end of newspapers and, the end of newsreels, the little tag at the end. So
We don't
I
talk
only
about
wrote down the
humans
ones that
on
had
these
some,
papers.
yeah. but I thought those really were interesting. Now, a really interesting thing is that when I was looking into this, so you all know that I really dig deep into Oklahoma stuff because Oklahoma is just so flush with Bigfoot and cryptid and ley lines and Indian lore and mounds and Spyro. And, it's just, holy cow. It's just a mecca down there. Very, very little on crop circles.
Huh.
Really? That's
That's
interesting.
weird.
Very, very little. It's like
Wonder
they're
why.
one. I don't know. Now they're thick with UFO activity and all sorts of things. So you would think if that crop circles were UFO related, like truly, that there should be a butt ton of crop circle.
Yeah.
Nope.
I really don't think the crop circles are extraterrestrial. The more I hear about it, the more I think that most of the real ones were some sort of natural phenomenon.
More than likely, there's going to be something that's
They may be. I know that they do not all fall on ley lines. It's one of the phenomena that I found that do not. They have their own agenda, apparently, whatever it is.
It's weird how there's several, around that. What'd you say? In England, the
Wiltshire.
Wiltshire. There we go.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird how that's really a hot spot.
Mm-hmm. And Oregon, Moscow. There's several hot spots.
my favorite hot spot. I think is Cheesefoot, just because of the name.
Who doesn't like cheese?
Not on your foot.
So, speaking about causes, I always like to ask everybody what they think makes them. Do you think it's aliens or Mark thinks it's something natural?
I'm thinking, yeah.
I think it's more than one thing. I think that they are
Yes.
more than one thing. And I think you're going to find natural, and I think you very well may find either, I don't know what the other would be. If it would be alien, if it would be multidimensional, I don't know.
Maybe they're
It's crazy.
portal.
I don't know.
What?
There's lots of wild theories. So Pam's already talked about the plasma theory, and I added on to that with aquifers and the chalk and the dry spells, right? So we've got that. So there's some people, scientists, who have theories that it's microwaves from satellites and that it's the government's testing what they can do, right?
Yeah. They've been
Maybe,
around.
I-
too
I know
long.
it's not. I'm just going to give you the spiel
Yeah,
of
they've
all
been
the
around too long.
insanity that I have found.
I don't know. Playing devil's
So-
advocate. I think maybe some of it, maybe.
Especially the
be.
scorched
I mean,
grass stuff.
Right.
Yeah. Some scientists say it's just weather. That
Plasma
makes all those
vortexes,
wonderful
whatever,
designs.
right?
I don't know.
It
So
could be.
this one I found was interesting. I don't think it's what it is, but I'd never heard it from this way before. So there are some scientists that think it comes from the other way, that it comes up from the earth.
But from the earth. See, I was thinking that
Mhm.
earlier too, maybe.
They call it heat energy. So they say it's a natural phenomena created by swirling waves of heat energy that's thrust to the Earth's surface from the upper atmosphere. So it creates this push-pull, and it's creating these natural designs, kind of like Mark says, it's like a natural design bursting back up through. It seems a little far-fetched to me, but I don't know a lot about science. So some people think that it's aliens projecting. So they're basically entrances and exits for interdimensional travel.
Yeah.
And this one really interested me. I actually watched a little like documentary on this dude who kind of heads this or whatever. And he was talking about, if you think about a plane, just imagine like a plain old plane going through like a piece of paper. So when it went through and it maybe like made a turn halfway through, the design it would leave on the flat side of the paper wouldn't look anything like the plane. It would have a geometric kind of a design to it, right? So what he's stating is these are entries and exit points for aliens and for, well, not even just for anybody traveling interdimensionally, and that what's left behind is the afterburn, the kind of the suction
Yeah.
where they've come and gone. And what you're seeing is literally the geometric detail left behind from whatever they were traveling in.
That's interesting.
That is interesting.
And Tim's saying it could be some kind of magnetic phenomenon. It
Yeah.
could-
It could
There
be.
is magnetic interference inside those circles almost always. So
Mhm.
I don't know, but that would make sense if it was like the contrails, leftovers of a ship, some kind of a ship going through it.
Mhm.
It would leave some kind of a mark. I don't
And
know.
you know what? Honestly, when you're saying that it could be like a contrail leftover from a ship, if you look at the photography that's come up with the jellyfish-looking things in the sky, and then you look at some of the jellyfish-looking things that come to crop circles or different kinds of circles.
Mhm.
I don't know.
It's interesting. Yeah.
Ooh.
My theory is that crop circles are made by aliens and they're simply marks like to show people where to go, aliens to go when they get there, you know, like take a
Road
left
sign.
turn at
Okay.
take a left turn at Albuquerque,
Yeah.
or better yet, like these people here are nuts, don't stop here. Move
Restroom
along,
and
move
fuel
along.
next right.
That might
Yeah.
be exactly what it says.
Yeah. Or like the Greys were here, don't come here. They
Yeah.
like to poke, you know, people in the butt and steal cattle. Don't stay away from this area.
Hospital.
Mm. Yeah, exactly. Hospital next right.
I've got something here I'm kind of working, through. Maybe you can tell me I'm full of it or not. But looking at a map of the world, and you're thinking Oregon, then you have England, and then Moscow. They're all hot spots.
Mm-hmm.
Is it me, or does it seem like it might be a straight line?
I don't know. We'll have to check
Moscow
the.
here.
It might be, but you need to check your curve.
Yeah, your parent. you need to
Right.
look at
I don't
parallel.
disagree. I got kids fighting.
We need to pull up a map that has latitude on it.
The parallels, yeah. Yeah, and you would think a lot of that stuff would happen along the Kansas-Oklahoma border, since it's right on the parallel.
It does. But like I said, like I don't have a whole lot of reports that I could say, yes, they were accounted for properly along the Kansas side because we just don't report it.
And some
I
of these
mean,
are in places they pop up in places that are so far off the beaten path they may not be seen.
mm-hmm. I mean, I can imagine a lot of the farmers, especially in southeast Kansas and then going up the edge of Kansas, that's a very rural area. And I would see them being just more pissed off for the fact that they think somebody went in and tromped their crops.
Yeah.
They go in
100%.
there, maybe bitch to somebody was tromping around in my crops last night. And that would be the end of it. That's all you would have ever heard of it.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that happening. I
That's-
can hear that happening
yeah.
down here at the coffee shop.
And if you
It's just
don't see
yeah.
it
Them
from
dang
the
kids.
sky, you may not really recognize it for what it is.
Yeah, it's really just the rural mentality here, you know. They don't kick up a fuss about that kind of stuff. It was literally just someone got in my field and
Yeah.
I got you.
Um,
Gonna whoop some butt.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm off, but Oregon would be down here, I guess. And then you have England and then Moscow, so it's not necessarily straight across the board. So
yeah,
I
but
don't know.
like so I think we would really have to discern all the really big hot spots tag them on a map and then see if we couldn't set up some kind of a pattern to them, like if they end up being like the bile vortices, the
Right.
triangles that are found everywhere. You know, there may very well be something to it, but it's not anything that I found yet, and I haven't taken the time to sit there and map out crop
see.
circles.
I see pin maps and yarn in our future, Phil.
We need a big
We're
old
gonna-
wall.
We're gonna tune in one night, and they're gonna be all crazy haired in the back with pins, and
Tied up.
they're tangled up in their own string, going the circles.
It's all connected.
It is now, anyway.
Yeah,
right.
And we're gonna be, and you and I are gonna have to take over because we've lost Phil and Mark.
All wrapped up
Yeah.
in
That's funny.
my.
We're sorry. The
I'm
What
sorry I
If
can't do
Tomorrow
the
has
crazy
peeled
hair
out.
thing.
Yeah.
You know, we were talking about time frames, like how long they've been reported, and obviously they go way back. They go back into the 1600s and beyond.
Mhm.
So far as the first photographic evidence, there's I think the first one is from like 1932. I sent Mark that website. Do you
Yes,
still have that?
I do. It is still up on my computer.
It is called, let me find the name here. I've gone through a couple of pages by then. Oldcropcircles.weebly.com.
All right, can you see that?
No.
All right.
It's really small.
Yeah, I don't really have a way to make it bigger either.
Um, Let me pull it up on mine.
Yeah, somebody needs to check it out because it's got UK circles, overseas circles.
Yes. And if you go into the UK circles and you scroll down a ways,
1678, 1880, 1904. So,
yeah, the 1932 one, if you click on that, it shows a picture of the oldest known crop circle that was photographed. Hang on. I hit the wrong thing. And it's the Bow Hill. And I don't
Right.
know if you'll be able to see it if I pull it up. There you go.
you see that?
It's
Not
really
a very good
hard to
photograph,
see.
but the photography wasn't that great right then.
No. And it's just, but you can see where, well, I'm pointing at the screen. You guys can't see where I'm pointing. On the big picture, you see that kind of rectangle that's outlaid. It's just below it. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's that darker area.
So, yeah, that's kind of weird.
Yeah,
It's got images here of a map of them. So,
and they still, Jess was talking about the ghost that hangs around sometimes after they're gone. There's still faint outlines of those in that area.
yeah, you can see them here in the,
You can see in that next one in the grass too.
Mhm.
yeah.
Oh, I was going to mention that earlier, and then we got off topic, and I completely forgot. We were talking about how they so often find these near monuments.
Yes.
Well, there are many places where they have figured out that these monument sites, these big hills and places where they've built like Stonehenge and stuff, is where they purposefully took their seeds before planting to be blessed.
Oh,
And they have found that inside the majority of these circles, the ones that weren't so damaged from radiation or from microwaves, the seeds inside from those plants grow thicker and better
that's the magic.
than the
glass.
seeds outside the circle.
Mhm.
So they are assuming that people from long ago knew the magic of these circles and would literally take bags and bags of these seeds, of their seeds before planting, out to these areas and allow whatever this was to bless their seeds so they would have fantastic yields.
That's amazing. That's cool.
So
Yeah,
so
in
could it
fact,
be-
there's
could it be Faye?
Yeah,
I mean,
referring
not?
back to my favorite book in the world, The Fairy Faith, there is on page 45.
We love you, Pam.
Set aside, right? Because I'm the weirdo of the
I
weirdos.
threw her a bone.
You did, and I jumped on it. There's actually a poem from, like, I don't know, this guy that wrote it his name's Richard Corbett, and he lived from 1582 to 1635. And the poem says, "Witness those rings and roundelays of theirs which yet remain, were footed in Queen Mary's days on many a grassy plain." And it continues on, but that first line there, "Witness those rings and roundelays," they a lot of people do. I say a lot of people. There are a few people that believe that may be a very early reference to not only fairy rings but to crop circles.
it makes sense.
Yeah,
It could be.
Well, 'cause
the rings.
it's
and
weird
roundelays.
because you have the fairy rings, the mushrooms and all that. So it's
Yeah,
kinda
and
weird.
look at if you look at it, especially with the mushrooms, look at the lushness of the green that comes inside of them. There's your, nutrient rich area.
hmm It could
Yeah.
very well be. I mean, it could be 1,001 things.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just think they're really
I got my
interesting.
fairies in.
They are.
Yay! Thanks,
I think it's
Phil.
one of those. It's one of those outlier topics. Like, I think it was so overdone at one point that people kind of just poo-pooed it, and it's become like this. Whenever the paranormal's brought up, nobody talks about crop circles because it's just become such like a complacent topic to the side. Like, crop circles, okay, whatever.
Well, Dave and Doug did a world of hurt to it for 13
They
years.
did.
They really, truly did. They only did 13 years. There's, hundreds of that we know of years before
Mhm.
that they were actually there, that there's no
Yeah.
way Doug and Dave did.
Yeah, I mean, like, the sad thing is, like, if you get up online and get on whatever search engine you're on and type in "are crop circles real?" and the first 20 pages will be nothing but articles on Doug and Dave and how they proved to the world that they had done them all. And I'm like, how? They would have had to have Cylons or something to be
I
in
know.
multiple places across the world at night at the exact same time. And
For years, I thought
Right,
just
you were
because
right.
of those reasonings that there was nothing to them, that they were hoaxes and, or it was just some crazy conspiracy. But the more I've dug into it and the more, Jess loves this stuff. So, I've read the stuff that she's done in the past on it. Yeah, it's a lot more to it than what you think.
yeah. It's an exciting field that's just not touched on. And when Mark was talking, he was talking to me after the meeting about, I asked, if you guys had a topic for this week yet or not. And he was like, well, we really haven't come up with, or we're, and I was like, well, if you need any help with that. And he was like, well, what would you like to do? And I was like, crop circles. Let's do it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it was instant. There was no delay. I said, okay, crop circles it is.
Yeah.
I know
Yay.
Jess knows the answer to this, but some trivia for you guys. Do you know what a person that studies crop circles is called? Jess knows. I can see it.
A
A
ring-a-ding?
serologist.
A serologist.
What?
Serologist.
Huh?
Because it's mostly cereal crops, the barley and the
Yeah.
oats and things.
What's
So
that?
does
crop
that
Cookie?
make Doug and
circologist.
Dave serial killers?
Ooh. Ba-ba-bum.
I actually stole that from somebody. I can't remember
Yeah.
who heard them say it. I thought it was great.
If you all at home want something funny to do for the evening, go look up Doug and Dave's circles that they performed for different news crews and photos and stuff.
They are so
The drunken guys rolling right out of the pub certainly did these. And you will know which ones they did and which ones were actually real.
They
circles.
got called out too because they were
You
like,
can tell which ones they did.
oh, I made this because one of them looked like St. Bridget's cross or a cross. I can't remember whose cross it was, but they were like, okay, then tell us how you made it. And they couldn't even draw the cross out the
Yeah.
correct way. to show that they did it. There was no way they did it.
Hmm.
Not to say they didn't. They did a fair share of them, and they like to say afterwards that one of them passed away first. I can't remember who passed on first, but the other one was like, we felt compelled to follow these, to actually get up and go out and make these. We didn't. It was a compulsion for us to continue to do it. So
Because MI6 came out and said, "You better go do these."
right.
Yeah.
Linda
Spooky.
Moulton Howe has some great work on
Yep.
crop circles.
Yeah.
Spooky
Here
said
we
he
go.
first learned about crop circles when he was a kid reading Linda.
Let's
Moulton
see if I
Howe's
get
work.
it
Oh, is
without
that
my
Duck and
ring in
Dave?
the picture. Yeah, I was gonna say these are the idiots.
Oh yeah.
So these two old men were out creating, like 4.5 football long field things in the middle of the night, half drunk from the pub, because they didn't want to be with their wives at home.
Apparently their wives didn't
Oh.
want to be with them either. It sounds like.
One of their
I
wives
think we
left
lost him
them,
for a
like right
second.
after that.
Oh, I'm not surprised. The other one just didn't know he wasn't there for 13 years.
My God. Yeah, you can't see it, but on his hat is hanging this They supposedly had this fancy homemade equipment that they had made to create the designs with, to make sure that they were proportionate and geometric looking. And it was literally like a fishing line hanging off the side of his hat brim. He had like a ball cap with like a hook on the bottom of it, and it hung right down here in front of his eye. And however he tilted his head, it was supposed to show him the exact line he was supposed to use. And then the other one had like a stick with like this hook thing sticking on top of it, and that was a marker for him to use. And then they had the boards that they stepped on, and it was supposed to make
Like an
these
idea.
perfectly precise circles.
Yeah, you ever been so drunk you got to look through one eye to make sure you can see?
Mhm.
How drunk do you have to be?
Pretty bad.
I've
You
never
gotta be
been that
pretty drunk.
Oh my gosh.
The hilarious one was, I read an interview with them once, and they were talking about, the interviewer was talking about a specific crop circle that had been made in this town. And literally okay, so the lines that go through the fields that allow the tractors' tires to sit in so they don't ruin the crops, the tram lines.
Yeah.
So, yeah. People claimed, well, that must be how they got out without leaving footprints, right? And Doug and Dave were all about that. We're like, yeah, we use the tram lines to get out there so you don't see our footprints. It makes them perfect. Well, the particular one this interviewer was talking about, the closest circle to a tram line was 80 feet away. And he was like, so you made it from the first tram line all the way over to where the circle was made. That was 80 feet. And Doug and Dave said, yeah, we pole vault.
All right. So tell me,
These
these guys look like
70, 80-year-old men.
Drunk.
Leave they leave the pub drunk in the middle of the night so they don't have to be with their wives. They take their little fishy hook and their little post, and apparently an 80-foot long pole, and they go out into this field and they make a run for it, and they pole vault that sucker, so they weren't anywhere near the line.
Thought they pole vaulted.
what are they doing? Drinking Guinness out of a semi truck? I mean, anchor.
Challenge accepted.
It sounds more like they're drinking something they made in their bathtub.
Laced with LSD.
Making some
The
prison wine or
insanity of
something.
it is the minute they said it, the media latched onto it and just dispelled the entire crop circle thing in one day. It was gone.
Mhm.
It was a farce. It was a hoax. Every crop circle ever was made by them. It's
yeah.
so sad.
Dang.
I'm still worried about that one in the cave.
Right? Ugh.
Well, that can't be the only one.
No.
So if one was made in a cave, how many times has there been ones made in caves? But you can't see them. How are you going to see it in a cave? It's like I said, I've never found a picture of it, but when you think about it, how would you get above it in a
Take a
cave
picture.
and light it? and get a picture taken.
Selfie stick.
An 80-foot long selfie stick. You gonna
I
pole vault?
wonder-
Exactly. Exactly. That and my tanker truck of Guinness.
So
I will try to accept that challenge as well, Phil. I think we can do it.
I think we can try
I think
anyway.
we can do it.
I may not get far, but
I don't think we'll be making any circles.
All right.
Yeah,
Now,
we'll be
Not
walking in
intentionally.
circles, but-
did you know there is a test that you can do to see if your area is prone to crop circles?
Chris.
No,
I did not know that.
Yes, there is a way to test it. I found it on TikTok.
Oh, well,
of
then
course
it's
it's
100%.
Okay.
It's on TikTok.
So-
It's got to be true.
I love
Yeah.
TikTok.
All you need is a hanger,
Oh,
Right?
God.
Oh,
and you stick it on your
Come on.
head like this. And if your head turns, it'll point the direction of where crop circles might form. No? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm done.
We've done
Fell
this
for it
already.
once. We're
The
not
hanger's
falling for
done.
it.
The hanger's gone. Sorry.
I kid. Sorry.
I've got a tool to help me do them straight.
You guys fell for that. Lame.
Rejected.
Yeah. Well, that being said, on that note, yep, I gotta go get some little ones put down and get ready for tomorrow, I guess. Oh goodness.
All right.
I'm not apologizing.
No, don't.
I'm not
It was
apologizing.
good. It was
That's
good.
classic. That's classic.
Like always, it's a blast having you guys. You guys make it a lot of fun. So
This was a fun one. I really liked
it was fun.
This was
It
fun.
was fun.
Yeah.
Except for the whole
Yay.
demon summoning circle thing.
Yeah. What was drawn in it?
Hey.
I want to know. But
If you can't take the
Here-
heat, stay out of the
Stay out
kitchen.
of the cave.
yep. But y'all, thanks for hanging out with us in the chat. We definitely appreciate that. Son or Spooky, man, if you're still on it, man, happy belated birthday. Missed your show Friday night because I fell asleep early. But man, so happy birthday there, and hope you had a great one. If you guys want to reach out, chat with us, throw us ideas, whatever, email us whatiftomorrowpc@gmail.com or on the Facebook group page. My daughter had to come talk to me for a second. But yeah, if you reach out to us, if you got any ideas, comments, questions, whatever, reach out to us and we'll do our best to answer them, answer questions or a good show idea, whatever. I don't really have anything else. Mark, do you?
No, I really don't.
All right. Well, ladies, thanks again for hanging out with us. It's a lot of fun. You guys just
Absolutely.
welcome on.
Anytime.
Thank you for having
Yeah.
us.
Oh, anytime. You guys know that. I mean, you're more than welcome. I mean, you're part of the show now. So
I'll have to add them to the credits.
Me and my
yeah, I
hanger.
got to. I need to.
Yeah,
you
the
can
blue
bring it
hanger,
anytime you
too.
want.
We should give the hanger its own square.
We should. We
That's
should.
a great idea.
We could do that. It could be right in the middle, and we could make
Right.
it spin when somebody's
Mhm.
talking.
That's right.
All right. We will catch you all next episode.
Good night.
That guy.
Bye.